Harry Hayes, I expect him to play on Friday night. This has been a very well kept secret for a while, but now the news is starting to report it, and I'm pretty 100% sure he will play. They reported 6 weeks, which was a long estimate, took a lot of the focus off, I believe, and he will be selected. I believe he'll probably be selected at number 23, if not already just straight into the starting side. Number 23, maybe some last minute tests, and then he will line up. I'm predicting that Sam Hughes will be the one to make way. I feel that in the way they've managed the forwards the last few weeks with different minutes and that sort of stuff, that we will see Sam Hughes make way for Hayes, and they'll keep Curran, who's probably been close to our best the last couple of weeks as far as a lot more intensity in his running game, much better contact, so we'll talk about that when that comes through. I expect Rinikama to come in, and I'm not sure if we'll see a Burton shift into the centres or not. Probably not. More likely to see Tuala and Rinikama, and maybe even bringing in a Blake Wilson or a Jonathan Sewer into that back line for this week, which I'm happy with whatever they do, to be honest. We're in the finals. It's a fantastic effort. Nothing game on the weekend. Made 100 more tackles. I think the commentary that were absolutely blasted through the middle is a little bit of an overkill. They completed 44 of 46, and all credit to the Sharks in that performance. Yeah, I've seen this with Bulldogs many times before, and I've said it. They had a plan to get us through to the finals. They've done that, and all the noise about disruption and all that sort of stuff, it was there. Disruption's been there before a ball was kicked, so they've been dealing with it, and they'll all be locked in and ready to go, and we will see this team lift, just like we'll see the Storm lift. And if we're not good enough, we're not good enough, but I believe they will be good enough. They'll make a prelim. We won't care about what people say, including our own supporters. You know, you've got a choice. You can sit there and try and protect your own disappointment by writing us off and then being pleasantly surprised and saying, wow, I was wrong, yay, which is up to you. That's fair enough. I won't care. If I see a Bulldogs jersey and we're winning a grand final or a big game, you know, it's all love from me. But you can choose that path and try and have that, you know, validation that, see, I was right, we sucked all along, or we sucked because of this and that. You can be that person. Or you can be the person who goes, well done, guys, big game, and, you know, be disappointed after we bow out of the season, if that's what happens. You know, that's your choice, But this community's for supporters who just want to get in there and support the team and get behind everyone who pulls on that jersey, no matter who they are, no matter what we might think inside, you know. Anyway, so we'll have the review with Lee Addison, the rugby league coach. We'll probably record that this afternoon or tonight. I'll get it out as soon as I can. He'll provide a very critical approach, I'm sure. For those who want to see criticism, you'll get some. You know, but me, myself, I'm invested in every game, watch the games multiple times. And as a coach myself, but not in the same way of rugby league, don't get me wrong, I don't rate myself as a rugby league coach, but what I will say is, one thing coaches understand when they're not sort of in the media is that performance is about the whole performance, always, winning or losing, doesn't matter. When they're rating the players, they don't just give them if they've played shit in different parts of the game, just because we won, they don't get a free pass. You know, often the media will say shit like, well, they've got to pick that team again because they won, and often the coach will, because it is a team dynamic, but they're still going to give the feedback on the good and the bad, no matter what. And the whole fucking fact is everyone wants to improve, and sometimes that improvement means going through a few games where you have some bad shit happen, you know. But I'm really impressed with Josh Curran, the way they managed him. He's come back really well, so I'm expecting him to be full throttle. I'm seeing some signs from Max King getting back into his work. Hughes had another tough game on the weekend, so I think he'll drop out for Hayes just because it'll get back to normal. Not sure who'll start out of Marnie or Haywood. Doesn't matter, whoever they put in there. It does not matter to me. They'll get in there and have a crack. But either way, guys, it's been a fucking fantastic effort by the Bulldogs to make it this year. The noise is going to be there. They're going to carry on. But, you know, if you want to help this Bulldogs team, fucking support them. Fuck all the bullshit that's, you know, that you're putting out there to protect yourself because you want to get, you know, people sitting there saying, oh, it's Gus's fault. Those Touchline podcast guys again. Oh, my God. Playing the sad music and come follow me in my sadness. And then, you know, the passive-aggressive shit. Gus and Serrato, it's their fault. They fucked our whole season, and I've been saying it since the St George game, blah, blah, blah. But if we win, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope we win. And then they'll be acting like the best supporters of all time. Nah, fuck off. And if you follow those guys, look, good on them for expressing how they feel, but I know it's for a greater agenda because their dream is to be social fucking media people. Anyway, and for fuckwits who want to troll me on these lives, thank you very much for coming and adding to the views. Really helps. Yeah, you can, bro. You can smoke weed wherever you want, my friend. Oh, you'll give me a like. That's up to you, mate. You can like it if you want, bro. I said hi to everyone. But hi to you, C-Mac. But don't like it, actually. Don't like it. Honestly, do not like this. So people who'll be watching this on delay, I will see you guys later on tonight and tomorrow. And I'm excited, I'm happy, I'm nervous, I've got a lot of belief. They're all saying we'll go out in straight sets, and even if we beat Melbourne, it'll be because of, you know, Pappenhausen was out, the ref was on our side because they wanted a Bulldogs semi-final at a call, you know, they'll say all this shit. Oh, Hughes was out, how can you rate that as a proper win? He's got there by default, winning in Melbourne, away from home. The competition favourites. Yep, it'll be by default, and then we'll have to prove it in the prelim again, and that's fine. Because I know the team that teams don't want to play, and it's the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs and the Panthers. They don't want to play us when it comes to the big games. They've pretty much said it. You go to the Broncos. I was there not long ago speaking to one of the people in their marketing who got a bit of insight. They reckon the toughest team to play is the Bulldogs, even though they beat us. They know they got a lucky first half, caught us on the hop in the wet. They said that second half was like torture. And Nathan Cleary, he said it clearly. We didn't want to have to play another really tough game and lose 3 on the trot. We'd rather just give you our reserve graders and freshen ourselves up. But all those who want to hang shit on the club and the coach's decision, that's your choice. But at the end of the day, when the Bulldogs win, you'll be happy too. So you get to have it both ways. So well done to you. I'll just be disappointed when we lose and we're out of the running. Then I'll be disappointed. Then I might reflect and look at some things that maybe we could have done differently, but it doesn't matter what I think. It was quite disappointing watching the other night, but I wasn't really that invested in it. and I saw some stuff I liked as well. So, guys, look forward to Lee Addison's review, the Rugby League coach. Check out his book. He's got a tour going as well, an Ashes tour at the end of the year, which will be hilarious and great. And there'll be an Australian legend on that. So we'll talk a bit about that again tonight when we do the review of the Sharkies game. And yeah, it'll be good to hear Lee's insights onto where he thinks the Bulldogs are struggling or can improve, or where the opportunities for other teams are, and that sort of stuff. Oh, Mahan. Which club am I talking about? I'm talking about the club that you go to, man, the Blue Oyster Bar, Mahan. You been there? I'm sure you have. Mr. It's Me, how you going? If we have injuries in the outside backs, I want to see Jethro and Sewer thrown into the deep end. We have some quick feet, can't play a slow team. Well, yeah, good question, Tiger La. But I'll answer you in a second because I've got a little bit of time. Mr. It's Me. Everyone said Tuala was slow. How slow was he on the weekend? See, just when you say a slow team, look, I understand when we strip them of a few numbers and get the ball out to the winger and they're unable to be the fox. We don't have the fox and we don't have the hammer. And we don't have the quickest players in the game. But our team isn't slow. And Rinakama's not that fast either, neither Sewer. Like comparatively to, they're faster than Montoya, yes. And they got better footwork than Montoya, yes. More so Sewer, he's got wonderful footwork. And we got to really see that in the final round when he finally got to play left centre with Rinakama, and it looked absolutely fantastic. But it was against a reserve grade side, but still, he looked bloody wonderful. And everyone wants to see that as well, but the team's going to pick, the coach is going to pick the best side to win the game. And that'll be proven with the way they train. That'll be proven with the way they go about their business this week. You know, it's not just a bloody, I was going to say some big special word, but it's, you know, they're not just going to name a team and go, yep, use of the team. They all have to earn it every week. And there's been a few really good, important players in the team that sort of struggled with the training for a bit, and that's why Serrato had a bit of a crack at him to say, you lift your fucking game. But I'm also going to give you guys some insight into how they've been preparing this team for the finals and how meticulous Serrato is in using the games and everything that they do in order to get there. And some people know this who go to games and see what happens after games and stuff with certain players, but even the warm-ups, whether they happen or not, out in the field, there's always reasons for it. So look, we'll talk a bit about that sort of stuff. But yeah, g'day Timmy. That's it, Dave. He ran 90 metres and he didn't really have a big head start on him. He sort of caught the ball and spun through two defenders, and then yeah, they couldn't catch him. I wouldn't say Cronulla are slow. Oh, Buster Scott, do you know what Goonin is? Buster, I'll tell you something, mate. Have you played Goon of Fortune? I reckon you play it every day with an empty bag on the clothesline, don't you? Just wishing there was something in there. Buster Scott. We'll go back to Tiger La. Opinion on Tracy and King's form has fell off. Look, the opinion doesn't matter. What the facts are is that Tracy was in peak condition heading into the Manly game. And even in that game, he threw a couple of suspect passes. They didn't hurt us. But he was having a crack at some things. He tried some things, but his contact work into the line was supreme. It was one of his best games of the season. He got an internal cyst bowel injury out of the game, or he'd had an injury, but it sort of got worse from that game. Came back pretty, had 2 weeks off. Supposed to have 3 weeks off doing nothing before he could start training, so he wasn't supposed to train at all. And he's come back, and I knew the first game there'd be a couple of errors, and I just thought by the second or third game he would be improving a lot. And I felt in ways he has, he's getting through the contact better, but there's just been that bad error in these games. And look, Connor has been wonderful for us, and I'll never rate anyone on their worst game. I'll rate them on their best game, and I'll rate them on how often they're closer to their best game than their worst. And Connor is closer to his best if you can get rid of those errors. But that definitely been costly, some of them, no doubt. He holds onto that ball. We're going down 12-0, much closer. Probably less panic in the play. And look, they didn't really throw much. They were trying some different things. They played some flat ball. I'll talk about that tonight. The rotations were different again, but I suppose that was forced potentially, so I can't really say it was fully deliberate. But he definitely rested Kurt Mann a bit longer, didn't use him for too long. So lots of different stuff that they went about. And King's just, he had Origin. It's obviously a big workload. The highs and lows of that. It's normal for players to be a little bit flat in that run home. He was pretty crook against the Roosters. Really struggled in that game. Residual effects of that, and then the following week went a lot better. I felt that against the Sharks, when we had ball in the areas of the field where Max King typically runs, so he'll typically run off a kick-off, and he'll typically run, in the middle third, or when we get some field position. And when we're doing that, he's making plenty of meters, like most props. It's only the Payne Husses and a few others that are doing the carries out of their own end as well as everywhere else. And I find their team goes better when they do less carries out of their own end. It's funny that, when they only sort of carry when they have to help the team get out of trouble. Our back three did pretty good without Karaz, which was a big loss. Anyway, we'll talk about that all later, but in a nutshell, which I didn't do, Max King has shown improvement week on week since the Roosters game. And it needs to go up another level if we're to beat the Storm. We all know how important our boys are, and for all this stuff, people say, whenever we've come up against the bigger packs, we've lost. No, we haven't. When we come up against teams with sizable packs who can play long minutes, who have really good spines, of course we're going to struggle. Every team in the comp struggles against them, including us. And they struggle against our play as well. And if we can't hold possession, which is a key part to us winning with the troops that we've got, we're not going to win with 45% possession. Whereas a team like the Storm at their best, or the Broncos if it's all on, or even the Roosters, they can do that because of the attacking threats they've got. But what usually happens to those teams is they make so many mistakes that they run out of energy trying to win the game off every set, which is why Melbourne are so inconsistent through games. It's why the Broncos are a little bit the same. But yeah, look, I think every team should be able to say we deserve to be in the 8, and every team is a chance of winning this comp, in my opinion, even us Bulldogs. But for us to win, we can't give away shitty penalties, and we can't keep dropping the ball. We stop doing that, we can grind our way over any side in the comp, as the Bulldogs have done over many, many years, which is why we've won lots of premierships, but not since 2004. Timmy says letting the ball bounce is bad. That's what Gus said. I thought overall this season we've been okay under the high balls. Yeah, we've been alright, mate. Yeah, Tiger Lala, I'm not too worried about. I don't think Hughes will actually play. I think Harry Hayes will come in early from injury. Now that that's sort of out in the media, that it's potential of happening. It's definitely been something they've worked towards for round 1 of the finals, and he will, in my opinion, play. I think Hughes might make way. There's lots of excuses for Big Sammy Hughes, but no one needs to know what they are. At the end of the day, well, look, there's no excuse. The coach isn't giving excuses. Nobody is. But run meters, I think people need to understand what run meters are. They're an outcome based on circumstance. They don't always represent the effort of a player or what they've contributed to a game. And if you start to learn that, you can have better conversations about rugby league. It's just that those sort of stats are just easy to talk about, and that's where they want to keep fans. They don't want fans all knowing about the intricacies, and especially gambling the gambling agencies don't want you knowing everything either, which is why they don't tell you everything about a game. I'm telling you, there's some of those ex-players can sum up a game pretty early and go and look at their mate and go, well, there's no way this team's winning this game. They're doing something completely different here, And sometimes I get that feeling off a kickoff. If you don't start well with the contact in the first couple of sets, it's like, oh, I don't feel we're going to do well here today, and often that's the case. But look, there's a lot of shit that they don't tell you about in rugby league, and they do that because they don't want you to have the knowledge. And I'm not saying I've got all the knowledge, because I fucking don't. I'm craving more, and that's why I'm like reading books, and it's not just from playing it. Andrew Johns is one of the best ever players of rugby league of all time, but I've never seen a bloke with so much ability tip the wrong team so often. If you followed his tips, you'd fail miserably. And someone told me it's why Craig Bellamy's the best coach in the comp, because he coaches the average player to be the best that they can be. And he says it's the hard thing for great players like Andrew Johns, who could smash prop front rowers one-on-one and change the game and play it in a way which other halves never played it. It was because it all come naturally to him. He didn't understand that this isn't what normal people do, and that's one of the hardest things for people to understand, is why the best players aren't always the best coaches. I look at Ricky Stewart and I go, well, he's a pretty good coach, and he was a very, very good player. So at the same time, he was just great at all of the disciplined areas of how you kick the ball, how you did a legs tackle, having a good attitude, hard work, how to throw a fucking cutout pass, how to throw a small pass, how to be an absolute grub and get under people's skin. Like, he was just good at all of it. But a lot of that I think came from passion and hard work, not just natural skill. So that's to me why he really has got a pretty good record of turning some average players into pretty good players, and that's what the best coaches are. Oh my God. G'day, Khalil. Good on you, Macca. You'll be on the front line. I was just there. I was driving around Amy Park only Saturday night. The Bulldogs were actually playing. I just dropped my son off at the Navy base for all those playing at home. And yeah, I got coming back and I was just driving around the Amy Park and trying to sort of visualise what was going to happen in there. And yeah, everyone's saying we're going out in two. Well, I don't know too many Bulldog sides that have made semi-finals and gone out in straight sets. Yeah, we've lost one game, but I don't know too many Bulldog sides. Look, I think the 1993 team might have. They were a really good side. I think we would have beat the Broncos if we got there in the GF, but we didn't. I think they beat us in the prelim. Yeah, we lost the semi-final in 2004. We lost the first game, then had to win 3 in a row to win it. So never write this Bulldogs team off, ever. Get behind the boys and be disappointed if they bow out. Why do people have to protect themselves? Why do they have to sit there and say, I told you we were shit? To hide their disappointment. Must be because they're, I don't know. I just don't get it. I really don't. But Ciro said after that 66-0 loss that I've just reposted the video. He goes, I know a lot of people are hurting right now. You stick with this club. You stick with us. You'll remember moments like this, and that's why it'll be so good. It was only 2 years ago that we lost 66-0 to the Knights, and now we're in the top 4 in a preliminary final, and all people want to do is write us off and fucking whinge. And then claim to be fucking supporters when we win. Well, you are. Look, I shouldn't be like that, you know. Sometimes I feel people who, you know, I think sometimes we're all as bad as each other. But at the end of the fucking day, I just want the criticism of our team to be fair and just, not just to be, and for people to remember where we fucking come from and how hard it is. Imagine being the fucking Sharks fan. Well, they won one comp in how many years? They've been up near the top for years now, and they're still, you know, busting their balls to beat the Bulldogs in round 27. They completed at 44 from 46. I don't think a Bulldogs team has ever completed anything near that in a final season game, unless we've been a team which can't make the finals. If you go back through it, go look at our last games of the year, going back every time we've made the finals. You'll fucking find we haven't completed high at all. But I think we can beat the Storm. Dave said, I thought Salmon had his best game of the year against the Sharks. I couldn't believe it. Tiger, you made a good point about too many locks playing. We need 2 locks because we don't have an 80-minute lock option. And see, when people talk about small pack and all this sort of stuff, we need someone who can absorb the punishment early, and then someone who can come on and drive home the intensity, while also handling the ball numerous times and getting us into the spots in the field we can to make the game as difficult as we can for our opposition. In some games we throw out some real effort to put teams under scoreboard pressure. Some days we don't. It's like, okay, do we cut this out to Montoya or whoever's on, or to Carraz, or do we just take the hit? I watched Crichton in that first 20 minutes not pass the ball when he normally does. Now, some people say, oh, he's a hog, like they've said about Cherry for the first 6 or 7 rounds against last year. And then he had 2 of the best try assists you've ever seen against the Storm. And they didn't know it was coming. You see, not everything is supposed to be seen in an all-out effort to win every single game. Because if you do that, everyone knows what you've got, and they shut it down. And look, the Sharks knew what we were doing. Even the young Panthers knew what we were doing the week before. They were right there waiting for us. Craig Fitzgibbon, I think, saying that the Bulldogs threw a lot at him and they're really happy with their defence. I think that's more just a message of confidence for his team. But look, if they can get on a roll, they have no Origin representation for that Cronulla side. Pretty much close to their best team. They should be hardened and experienced and know what this time of year is all about. And they should be a team that's very, very hard to beat all the way through. But we'll see how good they are against the Roosters. Which will be. I love all the clashes this week. I think this semi-final series first week is really good. Really good. Yeah, but Salmon, people are a bit critical of the speed of his delivery, but I just find that those things a little bit questionable as well, like it's fast enough when we're scoring points. When he's throwing balls as part of a try involvement, and we easily scoring tries against some good opposition as well. No one's saying Salmon's delivery slow, but they look for someone to blame when we don't win and when we lose. And that's another thing which I just find to be a little bit typical of retrospective scoreboard based commentary on things. Actually, someone I don't know if it was an article or someone made a really good post about the level of professionalism in the the Premier League commentary, and how there's always a lot of education. They allow silence at times for people just to absorb what's going on. They don't always have to keep noise and have their little sideline banter going 24/7. There's much more desire to tell you what's happening and why, and not this constant changing of. Look, I like Michael Ennis, but watching him go from, allowing the scoreboard to determine how dramatic he is about one team or the other, and then you've got little Mr. Headline Maker Andrew Voss, who's a pretty good friend of the club, to be honest, which is why it annoys me. Just absolutely looking for headlines before the game even starts, and tries to insert headline moments as much as he can. It's not actually what I believe is great, would be good for the game. If they want to grow the game with viewers, they need to, I don't know, I think it was a good article that was done about the difference between our fucking Australian rugby league commentary and how piss poor it is compared to some of the bigger sports, where they're really focused on what the players are doing and how they're doing it, and as well as, sort of educating the fan a little bit as well. I really related to that. Bulldogs need to go back to Hayward starting in hook, Salmon, start Marnie. Yeah, but Hayward starting at lock was part of his development to be able to take on the hooker role. They're not going to... This has all been... I know we go back to games and go, oh, this is when we look the best. We played the Sharks without Matt Burton and we beat them 20-6, but they had context as well. They lost their centre pretty early. And then their replacement player that come on, they lost him straight away as well. Talakai. So they lost Hero and Talakai by half time, and we'd already had a lead. There's no way they were going to win. It's just too much for them. Context is important when you're going to give feedback. We go back to when we see what we feel was the best outcome and the lineup that was there when that happened. I see this mistake made in trial matches all the time. I've had people, some close friends I've lost because they, just talking smack on the team. Saying last year telling me that Bailey Hayward and Joash Papali, based on the trial result, should have been in our starting team for round one. Like, no idea of... And the team that they beat had one regular NRL player in it, and we had like 8. At least we played 8, 8 of our players, for the first 20, then put on the reserve graders. And yeah, look, not diminishing their performance, but this is the type of shit that we deal with as fans. And you're trying to do podcasts and stuff, and people are telling you that, he's going good now. He's going good now, Joe Ash, though. Fucking oath. Enjoying watching him. His defence is getting better. Enjoyed watching Parramatta this year, actually. Enjoyed watching a coach do a lot of similar stuff as what Serrato's been doing. Hard work, mobility, and he's got the speed, and he's got a good spine, a really good halfback and a fullback in Iongi that was a decision that Penrith will probably, regret. They didn't want to lose him. They didn't want to lose Matt Burton. They didn't want to lose Isaiah Katoa. But that's the sacrifices they had to make. They didn't want to lose Stephen Crichton. But that's it. Yeah, but I just wouldn't be too focused on how we performed against a team at a certain time with the team we had on the park. They're going to pick the best side to win that match. There's no ego. There's no bullshit. It's like I talk about Toby Sexton a lot. Toby was doing his role, for the most part, was doing his reads correctly, putting his body behind it in defence. Confident defensive line, he played his part. Him and Preston struggled at times and put a lot of pressure on players like Crichton and Wilson and Carraz, which is what happens defending on that right edge. It's where you're getting all the attack thrown at you for most games. Where it's the hardest place to defend. And he did a pretty good job. It was called out a lot as the season progressed, and that was because, he wanted to be signed. No NRL clubs were really playing the game that his manager thought he was worth. lots of stuff that goes behind it. And as an individual development, I think he would have been getting satisfactory marks for the majority of his role play. But as far as his development to where they wanted him to go, I don't think he was getting there. I don't think he wasn't asked. He was trying to ask questions of the line with his running game. It just wasn't happening. He was making mistakes. Some of his better parts of his game were starting to dissipate, like his short kicking game, struggling to get the ball through numerous times. Which means Burton had to resort back to doing it. We've hardly got any tries off kicks this year, where the last 2 years, a lot of our tries are off kicks. So there are other things that we need to consider, peeps. It's not just the win and the loss column. And people could say, oh, that's all that counts. Yeah, if you want to live your life like that. Like it's an Xbox game and it's mediocre if you're not winning. Okay, yeah. Thanks, Corey Parker, no problem. You have high standards. You can have the highest standards. You can have the highest coaching. You can have the best potential players you can assemble. They can still lose and play well. Am I saying the Dogs played well against the Sharks? Overall, definitely not well enough to win, but they had some elements in their game which I was pleased with. I'm not sure if they were pleased with it, but I looked at it and went, yeah, that looks all right, that. And then that last bit just didn't execute or didn't throw a pass. They could have thrown, whatever it might be. These sorts of things, at the end of the day, if the players that are in the squad can't execute when we need them to in the important matches, which is this week, not last week, not the week before, this week, they don't get it done this week, that's when questions get asked of the squad. That's when they go, is this player going to ascend and be able to do that next time? I believe they will, or I believe they won't. And if they look past some players based on this semi-final series, look, that's why the Roosters got rid of Kyle Flanagan. There was absolutely no predetermination to get rid of him until they played those two finals and they believed that he's too far away to lead this side to the promised land. And in hindsight, it didn't matter because they never made another prelim until last year. Sucked in. But that's what at the time though, he was considered, and look, the Dogs fans were excited by him coming to our club. Most people were excited. Well, we've got ourselves a young halfback with a bit of pedigree who's just played a prelim at 19 or 20 years of age. And that didn't work out too well. But look, there's lessons to be learned for us as much as for the team. These coaches, they hear all the noise. There's all the family hears the noise of all the fans and all the keyboard warriors putting shit on their team, on their players, on their children, on their friends. And the last thing the playing group want is for their mates to be fucking smashed in the media either, and smashed by the fans. Look, I get it though. Sometimes I feel it's deserved as well, but I just think I'll just try to be better. And someone called me fucking toxic. I think it's one of the guys who comes on all the time. He said it's toxic to support the team and not criticise them heavily after every loss. I don't have goggles on. I just have a brain and I choose not to fucking slam players publicly anymore. Like I might have slammed Tavita a few years ago on a couple of performances. But then I thought about, what if he saw me in the street and smashed me? As you previously mentioned, when we have over 50% of possession, we're close to a win than a loss. I think the most sets we have had in a match this year is like 42 sets. We completed like 38 or 42. Yeah, well, the Sharks completed 44 or 46 just to show. And they only scored 4 tries. And normally when a team completes that high, they're scoring more points. He sure did there. Abraham, is there a reason why Kurt Mann didn't play in the first half? Would have come down to the rotations. We're losing 2 players. It's like, okay, we need Salmon to stay on for the full 40. And then Kurt can come on. And they try to delay it as long as they could. That's what I mean. They weren't desperate. It wasn't desperate to win. Look, they wanted to give the fans who turned up for their final game a victory, no doubt. But they're not going to sit there and, absolutely bring out all the machine guns and all the cannons when it's just a little, friendly game of bloody checkers out there, really. Another fucked up analogy, I know, sorry. I'm doing my best. But yeah, they had to change their rotations because they lost Cherry. Kickout had a HIA, which meant they had to bring someone else on early and change positions around. So all that stuff comes into it, and it might have been just a good time to give Kurt a bit of a less minutes, because they'll be hoping to use him, you'd think, from 35 to 45 minutes in this game and really ride it home. G'day Michael, hope you're well. We'll give a full review on the Sharks game, but I've said a lot. I'm not too worried about it, mate. I really am starting to think getting an easier draw in the second half of the season is ideal to get into form for the finals. Playing a hard draw in the first half, those fans to not get delusional. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there, but at the same time, I think we were able to plan our season perfectly. Obviously, with a couple of things that happened, that is what you get every year. But yeah, I'm not too worried about that sort of stuff. You get the draw that you get, brother. That's the draw that you dealt with. So I know it builds your hopes up, and that's what I'm talking about. People are writing us off because they don't want to feel as disappointed and sort of have that little kicker to say, look, I was right, you fuckers were wrong, we were shit. And then we win a heap of games at the start, and then we had to play the last 4 fucking premiership winners, the last 5 premiership winners in the last 5 weeks. That's what we had to do. And that was tough, but I'd rather that, because that tells you where you got to go. And when you've already done the groundwork, like, who's to say we were supposed to beat the Dragons twice, supposed to beat all these teams twice? Melbourne lost to the Dragons, Penrith lost to the Dragons, and we've close to full strength sides both in those games as well. Teams, none of those bottom 5 teams could fucking beat us. They all lost to us, and some of them were twice. We beat them twice. That takes a lot of bloody effort and a bit of luck. No game's easy, but the tough games were at the back end of the season. We had to do some adjustments. You've got to manage your injuries. You've got to get to that final game the best way you can. And that brings me to the next one with Zach, who says, you reckon Cam should have rested players? My opinion, yes. Zach, we can sit there in hindsight and say he should have rested players. I can tell you now, if they think the best thing is not to rest players, that's the best decision. Because at the end of the day, if you rest, just say you rest 6 players, people would have said, oh, this is great. He's given all these players a run. What's to say that, the players that did play don't get injured? It doesn't matter. The Storm rested like, I think, 8 or 9 players over the last 2 weeks. And they've lost Pappenhausen. They've lost Hughes, who came back, and they've lost him straight away. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't fucking matter what you do. You can give a player a rest for a week, and then the next week they get injured anyway. Like, it's just the lightning strikes, and wherever it hits, sometimes it hits where you don't want it to hit. Okay? Sometimes there's casualties. It's all hindsight speak. We can sit there and say woulda, could have, should have, didn't. Right? You live and die by your decisions, but a lot of the time choices and things that are, actions that are carried out are just what everyone thinks is the best thing at the time, and often life will prove people wrong. But it doesn't mean they would have got it right if they chose that, it just doesn't mean anything. Too much pressure is on the Galvin. I said already, if he had been in New South Wales Cup playing with Mitch Woods, it would have developed him better mentally. Now, if he stuffs up, he's going to really cop it. He's already been copping it, Abraha. This is what I said. Part of me just goes, just like you. If we'd done this and we'd done that, it wouldn't matter. I don't feel he plays like he's under pressure, though. That's what I see. And there's too much focal on him. Yeah, he's got the 7 jumper on, which is what our commentators in our country have decided is the be-all and end-all of the game. Which it's not. It's not. There's more pressure on Burton. There's more pressure on Crichton. There's more pressure on King than there is on Galvin. And he knows it. He's playing his role. And if you watch him, he doesn't struggle physically to get from one side to the other. And the thing that's not being counted is, while everyone's sitting there attacking his defence, I said before he come in that we were going to concede some metres there, and I've repeated this over and over again. The last 2 games, his mindset in defence and in the physicality and the contact has been so much better, and he's met players at the line, and he's belted some blokes, and that's a big win. His game is his development in his defence. That's what he's working on. And I think what you'll see is a kid that'll play some footy, and some players that'll throw some stuff, and will score some points this week in a game which is typically hard to score points in against a Melbourne side into Amy Park. We may only need 3 or 4 tries to win this match, or potentially less. So get behind these boys. Don't worry about Galvin's mental health from the point of view of playing the games. He's doing what he loves. He's playing rugby league. He's learning. He's in the semi-fucking-finals. What a great time to be alive. This noise from the fan base, this putting the question on him, making him as the fucking, as the gravity behind everything that happens with the Bulldogs, just needs to stop. We don't need to add to it. We just need to just, if he doesn't play well, okay, he had a bad game. Okay. Would Toby have played better in the same? We don't know. And that'd be another thing, because there'd be a whole bunch of people who'd be saying, well, Galvin should have been in the team. We should have picked Woods in the team if he wasn't here. That's what people will be saying. Doesn't matter what we say. Woods is nowhere near ready for NRL. But guess what? He might have got a run if we had the ability to give him that time. But Galvin's played, 40 games of NRL now? Something like that. Why waste him in reserve grade when he's going all right? We've won games with him. We've beaten some good sides with him at halfback. I'm not too concerned at all. This win or loss ratio based on when we had like before and after Galvin is also just so fucking stupid. Get the context of the game, talk about the game, watch the game. Okay, we did this wrong. Before we attack a half, where was our field position? Okay, some of his kicks weren't good. Okay, that cost us. Just like I would say about Reed Marnie. Okay, he's just done a beautiful kick on the fourth, turned him around. We got some field position, and then, we're getting the grind back. And then he's done it again on the fourth. Miskicked it, it's gone out in the full, or it's caught on the full, and next minute they're back 30 metres out from our own line, or whatever. Whatever it is. These little mistakes people make, they happen. It's when they keep happening over and over and over again, and you get trends. And you go, that's going to cost us in a big game. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to get someone who's team first, team focused always. Under fatigue, they're more team focused. They're the players getting picked, and they're the ones who we'll proceed with. Players who get fatigued and forget who they are and why they're there, those players don't have a future at our club, or not in that capability, if that makes sense. G'day, Dreg. Had a bad feeling about the game as soon as they allowed Curran to get leapfrogged by the Sharks to get to marker. We'll be back and better for it. Yeah, I saw that too. And look, when you got a ref who's given a team fourth and fifth tackle, 6 agains and penalties, versus a ref who's given the other team on the first or second tackle consistently, it doesn't matter what the penalty count is. It's how many extra tackles did a team get, and where were they on the field? That's what counts. So yet again, it's the context behind the number, not the number. We don't talk about it enough. That's why I think the 6 again rule and penalties need to change. To if it's a case where you get one extra tackle for a 6 again, one extra tackle, or even if it's 2. You don't get a full set, but you get 2 tackles. That would be a lot more fairer. It'd be harder to abuse. Yeah. Much harder to abuse. Lots of different things they could do to make the game actually, well, you can sit there and go, the penalty count really had a big impact on this team, or whatever. But look, sometimes that penalty count is because we are bad disciplined, or we are losing the ruck and we can't get up quick enough, or we're pushing the envelope because they're getting too much momentum because we are being beaten in the middle. Like, that's all fair commentary as well. But I'd rather hear that. The dogs kept giving away penalties because they couldn't keep up with the other team's size and power and stamina over that period. That's fair enough. If you can link it to that. Don't just sit there and say, oh, we're just too small, dominated in the middle. Tell us why. Oh, Lone Somber, I took fentanyl as a suppository. Well done to you. Can you see Prince and Michael Jackson in your visions? Who would replace Cherry in the centres? I think Tawala is probably going to move to the centres, mate, and I think Tawala will go to left centre. Rinikama will go to left wing, and it'll be either Wilson or if Carraz somehow miraculously fit. Some believe, just through belief, he's going to make it, I think. I'm not too sure about it. We'll see. I wouldn't mind seeing Sura at left centre with Rinikama left wing. It would be a very inexperienced left edge, but I think it would cause problems for the opposition in attack. Defensively, the Storm right edge attack is pretty fucking good, generally. So it would be under a lot of pressure. Like Kuchwala the centre and either Wilson or Rinikama on the wings, Sura an option as well. Yeah, Tuala will go centre and Rinikama will play ahead of Wilson. Mako says Carraz will play. Hayes is the Terminator. Oh, Brian, here you go. I'm telling you guys now, I've seen the writing on the wall for a while now. So, Brian, did you see the start? I already precursored it to say you can be the supporter who thinks you know, or you can, and protects your own ego and protects yourself from disappointment. So if we lose, you can say, I told you so. I've seen it on the wall. Or if we win, you can say, oh, that's a nice surprise. They proved me wrong. Oh, but the Storm will weaken, so they won't prove me wrong unless we can make the grand final on our own merit. We're already aware of all this. Honestly, you don't need to come here and flop your cock out and tell people that you saw this, you foreseen this like some great psychic. Because you don't trust the coach, you don't trust the playing group, you don't trust Gus, or you can just be disappointed if we do lose. And put suggestions what you think would be good for the club moving forward. But hindsight warriors regarding resting players, no precedent has anything to do with an outcome in actual reality. It doesn't. Proves nothing. Abraha, still feel like we have not learnt as a team how to time our run to the finals. All the other teams know how to do it. I still reckon we need a bigger forward pack. Small forwards not doing. So Abraha, as I've said numerous times, if you've listened to me, if we get a lock who can play 75, 80 minutes and assist the halves, once we develop that player or purchase that player, that enables us to then have an additional forward on the bench. We are developing forwards which are sizable enough, strong enough, aggressive enough, resilient enough, and fit enough to play longer minutes. The reason we have the so-called small forwards is because they are the best options for us to win a game of rugby league. And we've bought Leo Thompson, so the club's finally got a win by being able to buy a prop. It doesn't matter if they had some shit performances, that means nothing to me. But a prop who can play 70 minutes and keep going if he has to, who can throw an offload on occasion, doesn't throw many, but when he does, they're fucking good, and has a lot of aggression, and has a good football brain, and is a good person. Those things are all present in Leo Thompson, right? That's just how it goes. We've bought one of those players, and we add that to Max King. Max King's job becomes easier. as does Leo Thompson's, because they're both classy forwards. But this club developed Max King into that. And a lot of credit goes to Max King. A lot of credit goes to our club for the level that he has got to. And it's taken time. It didn't happen overnight. It happened over a few years. And this is what you've got to understand. There's always going to be a time element to getting to where we need to be. And this small forward thing, the coach is going to go and tell the fans they're right. Why would he? He's got to have belief in the players that are there. And if the supporters put that fucking belief into the players instead of listening to the media bullshit and listening to their own bullshit. Fuck that. I'd rather have 4 Currans than 4, Payne Husses. Why? Well, not many people would agree with me. Because I reckon they've got a bigger heart. And I think Josh Curran is a big game player. I really believe he is. Yeah, he's had the yips a couple of times, I know. So did Montoya, I feel, has done really well in some really big matches this year when he's a player considered to get the yips. But we'll see against the Storm. Well, not for Marcello. He might be back the next week, though, they're saying now, which is a good sign. But yeah, we don't just fucking support them and know that the club's building a team that will run out with lock. They can ball play and put hits on. That player's being developed. There's a few of them. We will have some dominant props. And when King or Thompson are injured or playing internationals or for whatever it fucking is, we'll have 2 young kids that when they come in, everyone will go, fuck. That's what our club's building, guys. We're not there yet. We never were there. Doesn't mean we can't win a comp. Doesn't mean we can't believe. Doesn't mean we can't do well. We have done well. But we get to a point where it's like, oh, okay, we're really great now. So anything less than a win is a fucking, it is just a catastrophe. It's drama. No, it's not. It's just another lesson on the pathway to glory, which is what we're on and where we're going. And the trajectory has not changed. It is still there. It's been a good journey. Where are we? We can see the mountain. See the top of the mountain. Are we going to get there and this year? Is it going to be next year or the year after or the year after that? I don't know. But while they're there, all they can do is get to those positions, and that's what they've done. They've had a plan the whole time. They've executed the plan. Part of that plan is knowing that things will come up that you didn't plan for, and having enough foresight to understand that, so that when it does happen, you can adjust when required. And our team's done it, and done it really well. And if people think Cameron Serrato doesn't know anything about preparing teams for fucking finals and winning finals matches, they've got another thing coming. And if they think Phil Gould doesn't know about that, they're fucking fucked in the head. They definitely know. Does that mean our players go out there and do it on the day? Well, let's fucking hope so. If you think you know more than Serrato or Gould, seriously, that's a time for you to go look in the mirror, look yourself in the eye and keep looking at it, and then think about all the fucked up things you've done in your life, right? And realise you're not perfect, and neither is Gus Gould or Cameron Serrato. But I can tell you now, those guys know a lot more about fucking discipline than most of us people do, especially me. And we should be a little bit more respectful of their contribution, in my opinion. And not be an absolute gullible fuckwit who's walking around in our own world as if the day we die, the whole fucking world dies. There's some life advice for you. Free from me. Nah, bro, it's nothing about forwards. See, look, it's a good question. I don't mind you at all, mate. You're always thinking. You're a thinker. You don't just make up your mind. You do have consideration behind your thoughts. Gould has just spent 800 and something grand on a forward. He knows he's going to have to upgrade Critter. He knows he'll have to upgrade Burton. He'll have to upgrade Woods. He'll have to upgrade King. He'll have to upgrade all these players. He's bought all these young players as well that are going to ascend. And he can't fuck the cap to do it. You know, we've got some pretty expensive edge back rowers, man, as well. Is that what you want? Maybe, maybe not. So Satili Tupanua is an impact forward for us. And he plays like it. And we like him. We just want him to not get injured as much and not get suspended as much. But when it comes down to, what they're not holding off on forwards. Literally, the only forward we've won the battle for as a prop is Leo Thompson. Anyone else has come to us without interest from other clubs. We won the battle for Burton. He wasn't 100% convinced he wanted to leave the Panthers. We made it so he, couldn't knock it back. Outside of that, Critter was coming, Kickout signed the next day, Reed Marnie. Basically, they made him an offer. He's like, fuck that. Dogs are offering me an extra year and 50 grand more. I'll take that. And I've got something to prove. They're going to make me captain. We've done what we needed to do to get players. We're building youngsters. We've had a lot of success with the youngsters. This year, they're really focused on getting these youngsters really NRL fit. I made some really tough choices with some talented kids. So yeah, there's lots of doubts, and that's fine. There'll be, and as I said, there'll be more peaks and more troughs along the way, more dips, but we're going to get there, and we're going to be there for a while. So get ready. But Gus isn't worrying too much about not spending on forwards. He's developing forwards, and they're developing them to the absolute minute so that they will be ready to contribute the way that we need them to. And we're not the only club doing it. Most clubs are trying to do the exact same thing. But we're happy with a lot of the crop that we've got, and that'll keep evolving. And there'll be some pretty talented forwards that we say, sorry, we can't keep you because we've got these kids. They're coming. Most of them are sort of poking their head up. You can see them. They're there. They just need time to develop. And we do have time. We've got plenty of time. Don't have to win all the time. And I've enjoyed this season in many ways. Enjoyed last season in many ways as well. And, we've got at least 2 more games to watch our team play. Whether they win this week or lose this week, we get to see them at least 2 more times. Hopefully we get to see them 3 more times. Or 4. At least 3. Hopefully 4. So that's about it, guys. But don't stress too much, people. That's it, brother. Bro, can someone explain to me how the hell Melbourne and Brisbane can afford their depth under the salary cap, because they both have extremely good depth? Well, Melbourne have the highest third parties in the comp. It's basically got a whole city to from that whole diverse area of the city, and the Suncorp's the same. Sorry, the Broncos are the same. They've just had that. And the Broncos been on the stock exchange. I think Melbourne are as well, privately owned. The share price goes up every win. There's a lot of kosher, and by that I mean they just get a lot of shit for free too. that doesn't get declared, just freebies. Things handed to them on a plate, and they're very well. And this is even the guys that aren't on much money as well, and they need that more than the big stars. Yeah, but I've always felt the Broncos are cheating the cat. I've always said it. I know for a fact they fucking were. And the closest we got to seeing it was when Andrew G, when there was a $500,000 discrepancy. But that's because they've never been attached to the see when you do a salary cap audit, their leagues club didn't have to declare, their funding and stuff. Whereas the Canterbury Bulldog Club has to, because it's linked into it's all linked together. Whereas the Broncos and their leagues club are separate entities completely, and they're able to get away with that for a long time. Petty cash, and whatever else. Look, I feel the Storm have always shed quite a few players to make things work, and the Broncos, what they have, just like what the Panthers have got, and probably what the Storm have got as well, is they've just got that aura amongst their communities where their kids will literally knock back big offers to stay, right? That's what part of building the Canterbury club back to what it was supposed to be is Gus Gould getting that within the Canterbury community, where talented juniors that they bring to the club become part of the family and don't want to leave, where there's kids from the 12 junior clubs just have absolutely no desire to go anywhere but to wear the blue and white, and that the kids are just walking around in blue and white jerseys on a Monday in the summertime, wearing it to cricket practice, that sort of shit, right? It's that sort of belief. But the advantage those guys have got is that they've got like 9,000 and 13,000, that many sort of local juniors, where we've got like $3 grand, 3,000. So the more people you got, the more talent you're going to have at your disposal, and the better competition you're going to have for spots. But it works okay for us. We've built expanded pathways. Gus has spies everywhere, scouts everywhere, I should say. They're bringing the best kids into our systems. That's working well. Makes our kids have to work harder from the local area. And that's where you build your salary cap from, and that's where you don't breach it, because the kids will sit there and say, okay, I'll stay for minimum for this season or 2 seasons or whatever, with old mates offering me, double that for 3 years. Now, if they think that the kid has to remain, they'll pay a little bit more. But if it's like, yeah, we've got plenty of those guys, we'll take the risk, they'll let them go and say, well done, you got yourself a great contract, thanks for your service. They obviously see that in you. We're not as 100% convinced, but well done. And sometimes it turns out to be the biggest mistake of your club's life, but that's just part of the process. These other people, look, the best way to put it is you get value in your cap through your juniors, and you get value as well as giving people opportunities where they're loyal. So the Bronson Cherries, for example, the Max Kings, the Jamin Salmons, the Drew Hutchisons. I know Drew hasn't really worked out, but I feel he's done what he was paid to do. And that's come in and be a leader around the club and show how he prepares and all that sort of stuff, and teach and manage the young guys around the group, and just use his demeanour and that sort of stuff. He's got all the skills. He just lacks a bit of the physical capability sometimes. But that's why all these players that come for an opportunity, you can extend them on a pretty fair deal. Like Kurt Mann extends for a year. I wouldn't say it'd be on huge money. I reckon he would have got a small upgrade. and then plays Origin, you know? And who knows if he had an Origin incentive in his contract, he gets picked for Origin. So that's value. That's where you get your value from. And Melbourne, they do get value out of there because people say, I want to go play there under Bellamy and I'll take less. You know, Tuikamanu, I think Melbourne got him for 800. He was on closer to $1 million if he stays at the Tigers, they pay him 200 grand extra, but he didn't want to stay. See, no one makes a big deal of the fact he wanted to get the fuck out of there. You know, and same with the hooker going to Parramatta and Galvin. You know, they all wanted out. Doesn't mean they're just shit in a basket case. It just means that these players wanted to develop themselves somewhere else, and they're basically all taken less to go. So there you go. Yeah, well, that's another thing, Abrahar, as well. The quality juniors that these Broncos have come through having a massive pathway system. I won't talk as much about Melbourne because it's more relevant to the Broncos. But they have this massive pathway system. They're indoctrinated. They don't want to go anywhere else. They want to live in Queensland. They want to play for the Broncos. And they've just got that. They've got that belief through their whole system. And like, that's just the hottest ticket in town. If that's going to be your career, that's just the best. You know, that's what they're aspiring for. And they are ready to go. But when you say they're ready to go, they've been in their system for some of them for 5 and 6 years, just like a Penrith. And they've hardly played a first grade game, but they've been there forever, like Dean Mariner, Deloise Hoyter, a whole bunch of them. Brendan Takura, Brendan Piakura, Jaden Hunt. They've been there for an eternity, and they've got their backups coming through, the Kobe Blacks and these sort of players. You know, Ben Hunt comes back. You know what I mean? It's not like they've been there, like when they come on the scene, some of them have been training with the first grade squad for, you know, on and off for 3 and 4 and 5 years. Which is why they're ready to go. Whereas the Bulldogs, we've had to rebuild all that from the scratch. You know, it's when the Broncos got rid of, you know, Lodge and Pangai and all these players, David Fafita, Tom Dearden, you know, they got rid of all these great players. Not all of them have aspired to much. Tom Dearden has. But when they did it, it's not like they didn't have a whole bunch of kids ready to fucking go. Because they did. They just had to make some salary cap decisions and put their money into the right areas. And build off Carrigan and Haas and Hetherington, and they're all the same. And having players coming through at the same age also helps as well. Which is what you've got with the Panthers constantly. They introduce waves of players usually, like 2 or 3 into the squad every year. They come in, they're not alone, and already been training with the main squad for 2 or 3 years as well. So we are so far behind when it comes to that. So why do you think Cameron Serrato keeps these people away from their families every weekend? Because they have to be connected and united and have that bond, and they've built a bond quicker than many would feel was possible. Especially from what you consider to be players that are not considered high value on the market. It's been a masterstroke, and we should get nothing but fucking praise for these guys. Oh, here he goes. You're all delusional if you think the Storm with Grant won't win 13 plus with the way we have played in the last month. We haven't played a decent game since the Manly game. It's actually been disgraceful and demoralising. I've held my tongue for so long. Well, you don't, because every week you say the coach is a fuckwit. Every week we lose. You say the coach is arrogant. How can we go from a top two side in the competition being feared to being a laughing stock as a team at the business end? I agree to an extent, Abraham, but we beat top eight sides in the first half of the year, then the season is gone. So we beat the Raiders after being down 20-0, which was a great fight back. Who else did we beat in the first half of the year? The Roosters. Yep. Who else? We beat the Sharks, which was a really good performance. But the competition's not won in the first half of the year. We set our year up so we could get through this hard part. And I'm sorry, when you given 5 players to Origin and 3 of them you don't even expect to be in the conversation, and that's a fair comment. When you've $650,000 player you bring is showing a really good aggression and really good signs in the middle, he spends most of the year off injured and suspended. When you lose Jacob Preston for 4 weeks, also in that Origin period, it's going to take a hit, Brian. Use your brain, mate. Don't just sit there. Look, the last 4 weeks, we weren't shit against the Storm. What are you fucking talking about? We crossed the line 6 times, mate. We won the possession. We just missed a couple of moments. That wasn't a demoralising loss at all. And if you play that game 10 times, I reckon we win it 7 out of 10. And it wasn't demoralising against the young Panthers side. What are you fucking talking about? Who's it demoralising for? You, or is it your ego? The Roosters game, I told you what fucking happened there. I can't say it any more clearly. When Carraz and King are only able to make 80 metres and 30 metres between them, 110 metres between them, why was that? They were getting driven back when they ran the ball. They weren't themselves, mate. They weren't there. They weren't well. They shouldn't have played. But they did. Because they're men and they want to play. They want to let their teammates down. And the coach isn't usually going to take that out of the hands of the players. No team would. If fucking Latrell says he wants to play even though he's got an injury, every coach is letting him play. If Nathan Cleary says he wants to play, he's fucking playing. His coach doesn't say overruling. It's just the way it is. Carraz and King are very important to us, and they weren't well. They were fucking injured. Carraz had a fucking injection in his shoulder, which I found out. Okay? Don't ask me how. Someone in a marketing department somewhere. But, and not all injections work, Brian. They're risks. You take risks. But you just want, every time we lose, you just want to fucking sit there and make this fucking side story that Gus and Serrato are fucking our season or they're fucking our club. When they've done nothing but improve it. Them and the people involved. And they know what it's about at this time of the year. But it's all right for you to come out here and not hold your fucking tongue and sit there and ram anyone who wants to defend the club and to ram the players and to ram the coach and to ram the fucking club. And then when we win, for you to go, oh, okay. Be like, why don't you start your own podcast, Brian? You should, mate. Don't worry about YouTube. Get on Instagram and be like that fuckwit from the Dragons who's in the Bulldogs brothers fucking film clip. Like, I reckon he's probably an alright guy, right? But he presents himself as a fuckwit. And people can have that perception of me, that's fine. But I'm not the one out there doing cod, and calling the coach a fuckhead. And calling players out there fuckwits and hanging shit on them. And then when they win, saying, oh, They won because I'm bullying them. Like, fucking grow up, mate. How fucking old are you? If you're a man, you're a big man, fucking keep it together, mate. Show some fucking respect. Understand not everything's supposed to be fucking great all the time. Because it's not. Don't fucking wave it around everywhere you go, mate. You don't need to. You can sit there and be critical. That's fine. Yeah, we haven't played that well. It's been against tough opposition. There's been some disappointing performances. I'm looking forward to them. They're at the finals now. Now there's the time to go out there and show them what the Bulldogs are made of. And if they don't do it, the club will invest in other people, because that's what happens. We don't have to treat them like fuckheads and act like dickheads ourselves on social media just to prove a point, or to sit there and go, oh, I'm validated by all the criticism. I'm validated by the loss. See, I was right. You fuckers were wrong. You know, when we win, I'm not going to sit there. I'm not going to say, Brian, see, I fucking told you so. You should have listened, Brian. I'll just be like, Brian, how fucking good is that? Keep the faith in this team. Learn from it. And if that's this year, next year, or fucking 10 years from now, I don't give a fuck, Brian. You understand? Support the team instead of yourself. Oh, Brian, don't say that. People might get offended if you say they're smoking something. I hope the Warriors do beat Penrith, just so fucking Brian understands how life works sometimes. Nothing's predetermined and precedents don't mean shit. However, these fuckers know how to get to a fucking how to get through a final series. Certainly did, Brian. I love that. And that was just Critter talking. But Brian's not interested in that. Brian, okay, the Dogs will be out in straight sets, and I expect you guys to say Brian was right. I won't be saying Brian was right at all. I'll be saying we lost two in a row. We weren't good enough. I couldn't give a fuck what you think. I actually, because you're a Bulldog supporter and you keep coming back, Brian, I actually give you a lot of voice on this podcast. I actually give you a lot of time, and I'm actually showing you respect by having a robust discussion with you. You can feel debilitated. It might have been demoralizing for you. Okay, I feel sorry that you're demoralized by the Bulldogs, that you have so much faith in this side, which everyone says is too small. We weren't a top two team in the competition at any point. No one said we were. The best that we got out of the commentary was they're playing like a top four team. That's the best we got. Why was that? Because we come home and put 32 on the Raiders. Now, I bet you at the half time, you didn't think we were a top two team when we're down 20-0. And be fucking honest, Brian, you had no belief we could win. And I'll tell you now, I sat here with people on this podcast and I fucking sent them a little message. And I said, believe in this team. And they will fucking vouch for it. Right? I said, believe in this fucking team. And they come out and they fucking smash the Raiders. When it counted. If you think the Sharks game counted, you're fucking wrong. Counts for something, but not the same way. And I've always said it, not every 2 points is worth the same. Nothing proves anything, Brian. What about in 1995, Ryan? How good were we the last 6 weeks before the finals? What about 2014, Brian? Were you telling everyone how? I bet you were there telling everyone that Tony Williams and fucking Des Hasler was shit. And these players were shit. And we'll go out. We're gonna get flogged in Melbourne. I'm not even gonna bother. You would have been saying it. I can see it now. 100%. Tell you that I'm 100. I know I'm right about this because you know what? What is it? A zebra don't change its stripes, or is it a tiger? I don't know. Yeah, Brian, I wrote the Warriors off round one this year. Isn't that funny? They're not the weakest team. They just got missing a couple of players. But I can tell you now, they're a hard team to beat. And if you think they're not going to be hard to beat in New Zealand with a full crowd, you got another thing coming. And it won't matter what if Penrith win by 20. It's not going to be easy for them. They're going to have to play really well. The Warriors aren't going to go out there and lose it, Brian. They're going to fucking compete hard. Just like the Bulldogs are going to compete hard. And they need their fucking fans to not sit there and say, I told you so after a loss. They need to sit there and say, you can fucking beat Penrith next week. We believe you can win. Being a hopeful, biased fan isn't a fucking bad thing. That's what it's about. This isn't real life. This is just a fucking game, mate. That decides whether we feel good or shit for a week. I get it. But go out there and support them. Stop being a fuckhead. Trying to tell everyone that they're wrong because they fucking want to follow their team. It's a much better way to go. Be positive. If you knew what these guys are putting their bodies through, and this is every player in the NRL, you would not carry on the way you did. You would not fucking carry on the way that you do. And if you've got, and what I also say, if you're willing to say something here, you should be willing to say it to someone calmly, look them in the fucking eye and say it to them if you ever meet them or get the opportunity. Why stop here? And if you can't say something to someone's face, don't say it here. That's right, Abra. And also, what about the grub buzz saying that Montoya's injury isn't as bad as it seemed as he tries so hard to get his boy Nico off getting suspended? Yeah, he's just a passionate fan, Brad. Whose bias is fucked towards everyone else. Yeah, Zach, me too, brother. Roosters buy a lot of good juniors, and because they've got a good system, juniors come for cheap, get developed, and then filter out to their club and to other clubs. They have, I think they've been caught rorting, and they've also got ahead of the game and secured a lot of young guys on big deals so that they can't be stolen from the expansion clubs and all the other clubs who are going to be looking to get the best juniors to replace good players that are going to go and play for the Bears and that sort of stuff. So it makes sense. Go, yeah, Michael. Brian's going to run it naked. I'm going to allow that. The NRL have overturned the MRC decision. Nico Hines will play. James, you sent them out a week before the finals and they got beat up just crazy. I don't know what you mean. That's it, Giuseppe. Good stuff. Kia ora, brother. There you go. So Buzz manages to get, it just shows you how against the Bulldogs they are. Yeah, but it's funny, people who are willing to, accept that don't allow the media to validate what they say as negative stuff against our team just because it suits you. Don't worry, man. I'll tell you something about Serrato. He's no spring chicken, and he's no pansy. He he runs a pretty fucking tight ship, mate, and he comes across as a nice guy in the media, and he says all the right things, keeps the media at bay, but behind closed doors, people think, look, they yeah, I wouldn't be ever consider him to be anything but tough, hard, and have a very high expectation of his players, which translates to belief. And if they betray that trust, that's it. They're gone. It's a new comp Tahi, exactly. And the Warriors, they would have been nice to get top four. I was really disappointed they didn't. They had a bit of luck in some games, which kept them there. Bit of luck against them in other games. Probably finish where they should have based on the injuries they had. Big injuries. So, but never write a team off, especially at home, across the ditch. No, Tom. That's it. These lads get bashed every week, either through training or through impact on game day. That's it, Tahi, and some even more. Anyway, people, I'm heading off. I will see you again tomorrow. This went about an hour and 20 minutes longer than it was supposed to, as usual. But I had fun, and I'll talk to you soon. Go the Dogs.